Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we'll meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is John Szymankiewicz. He's the founder and managing partner of Beer Law Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. And since its founding, Beer Law Center has helped over 200 small and independent alcohol businesses achieve their business goals. So welcome, John.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate you having me on. This is sounds like a lot of fun talking today.
Sure will be. So, John, tell us about what brought you to the law in the first place.
Well, I come to the law as career 2.0. I was my background is in chemical engineering, and I was a project manager and engineer for about 15 years before I went back to law school. It was actually a return to a basically childhood dream. I had always wanted to be a lawyer. And then in high school, I had a teacher who kind of inspired me, and I took a right turn into engineering and technical disciplines. And got out, and it took me a good 5 to 10 years to figure out I didn't like engineering. And so I wanted to do something that I would like to do for the rest of my life and give me an opportunity to work for myself or in a smaller environment. And so went back to law school at night and determined to get out of law school and do something interesting and fun, even if it's not as lucrative as it possibly could be.
So what was it like going to school when the rest of your classmates might have been in a different age, and you're sitting there, and how are you interacting? Certainly your take, your I don't want to say your attention span, but your focus and your intent is wildly different than someone who is 15 years younger.
Agreed. I was fairly fortunate. I went to an evening program, a night school here in Durham, North Carolina. And at the time, it was the only evening program, I think, within like 250 miles. So anybody who was, a mid-career professional or something like that looking to go to law school, we had an amazing class. So we weren't necessarily mixed as much with the day students. We did have some overlap, but there were people in my class that were, again, 15 years younger than me, up to like 30 years older than me. So it was a very eclectic experience. I remember coming in and sitting down at class one of the first days, and the people around me were just amazing. The guy that sat to my left for like 2 years, he went on to become head of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. He's now the chief of the administrative office of the courts here in North Carolina. The person on the other side of me was a lobbyist. There was a neurosurgeon behind me. It was really intimidating from that standpoint. But talking with some of the day folks, it is a very different experience going to school at night because there's not a lot of other time. Most of us were working full time while going to school as well. So I didn't have the typical law school experience.
Of course. And how did you come to your focus now that you're in practice and, the dust has all settled and you've been in practice, a long time? How did you come to your practice focus?
Well, so I learned a very valuable lesson in law school, and that's to keep your options open. Right. And one of the things that I love about the law is you can reinvent yourself. You can do lots and lots of things with a law degree. In law school, I fell in love with the bankruptcy code. I'm one of like only 2 people who I've ever talked to. It's like, yeah, that's really cool. Everybody else, their eyes glaze over and say, I don't want to do that. But I really went through most of law school thinking I was going to be a bankruptcy attorney. When I got out of school, it was in the midst of the 2008 recession, and there were no jobs, right? There was just no way. Nobody was hiring. There was a glut of attorneys out there. So I had to hang out my own shingle. And then I realized, by definition, bankruptcy clients have no money. So I needed to find something else to do. So I looked around at what I was good at and what I was passionate about. And I had been at the time, a home brewer. I made my own beer and wine at home for probably 15, 20 years at that point. And I love the industry and I love the people that work in the industry. So I more or less arbitrarily declared myself an expert and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And it took me about 4 years of concerted effort to get my practice where I was doing only work with alcohol sellers and manufacturers. And so, I used to get about a call every month or so from a new attorney going, how do I get to be a beer lawyer? How do I get to be an alcohol attorney? And the first thing I say is, well, it sounds a lot sexier than it is. There's no money in it because all your clients are small businesses. And it's really a lot of paperwork, right? It's a lot of not sexy stuff. It just sounds good. People would say, how do I get to be a beer lawyer? And I said, well, the first thing is marry well. So there's somebody else making more of the money.
Right.
But what that meant for me in terms of building a practice was I focused on an industry, and I was there for the industry 100%. I was at every new beer release, at every festival, at every conference. I wrote a lot about things that, at the time, blogging was a big focus. And so I wrote about the legal issues that were facing small breweries, wineries, distilleries, alcohol sellers. What does this mean? How does this work? What can I advertise? What can I say? So I just put out a lot of content about that and did a lot of speaking and slowly built up a practice area where, again, now probably 90% of my practice is in some form touches alcohol production or alcohol sales.
And the ATF is something that you need to manage on behalf of your clients as well, I'd imagine.
Yes. So back in 2002, they bifurcated the ATF. So the ATF now does basically the enforcement side, and the what's called the Tax and Trade Bureau of the Department of Revenue does all the licensing. So I work mostly with the Tax and Trade Bureau in terms of getting new places licensed, working with label compliance, advertising regulations that are all coming from those folks. And this is kind of a nuance for alcohol law, is that you've got federal regulation, you've got state regulation, and then sometimes you even have local regulation, and sometimes they don't all talk to each other, right? So navigating sort of a complex web of different levels of regulation is kind of where I can see adding some value to my clients.
And you had a client story you wanted to share?
Yeah. So, when we talk about lawyers going above and beyond, or being more engaged than just legal advice, that's a big part of what I do for my clients in general, because as I think any lawyer will tell you, the more I know about your business, the better my advice can be for you, right? And luckily for me, because I have focused on this one industry, I've got a broad breadth of experience with lots of different people in that same industry. And so it affords me the opportunity to go, okay, so you're a new client. This is what I'm hearing you say. Let me tell you about how to go about doing that, legal advice. And then let's talk about, well, why do you want to do that? These are some of the things that work in the industry. These are some of the things that don't work in the industry. What makes this different for you? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? One of the ones I get a lot, especially for startup breweries, for example, I say, okay, what are you going to do with your brewery? Why are you doing this? And one of the common answers is, I want to provide a high quality product produced locally. Yes, you and 9,000 other breweries in the United States have that same mission. How do you differentiate your brewery from the guy 6 blocks down that way, right? And so trying to not push back, but get the tease out of them what makes them different, and how are they going to capitalize on that? Because if you have any craft beer aficionados, or if you're a craft beer person, you can go into any bar in the country and find 2 or 3 hazy IPAs on. Everybody has to make one now, because that's what the consumer demand is. Well, so how is yours going to be different? And if you want people to come to your location, how is that going to be different?
So it's almost lawyer as marketing professional and guru.
Some of that, definitely. Yeah. And then kind of pivoting on that to go, okay, so this is what you want to do now. What does that mean later? right? So especially with startups talking about, okay, this is the name of my brewery. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But if you want to expand, that only means something here, right? That only means something very locally. That doesn't give you a story that's portable that you can sell somewhere else, or that doesn't give you a, I've got several that are here local to Raleigh that are, alluding to or referencing local stuff, right? Ideas, community. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But at some point, you may saturate this market. You can't take that same name or brand and go 7 towns over or 4 counties over to Greensboro to get to a new market, because it's not going to resonate with those folks.
That's right. So, John, here's a question that we usually like to ask, because this is your focus. Before we wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway, what would that be?
Gosh, one takeaway. Well, for lawyers, right, the takeaway I would give is, hey, if you're going to work with somebody that does something with alcohol, whether producing or selling, it's not intuitive. Do your homework, get some extra help, talk to other folks who do this. It's really easy to get something really wrong for alcohol regulation if you're not doing that a lot. If I'm talking to potential clients or people who are looking for legal assistance, the first thing I'd say is, well, gosh, if lawyers can get it wrong, be very careful doing it yourself. You can, but look for where you can provide value, or look for what value you need. One of the things I tell clients is, again, you can hire somebody like me to do the legal work, and you could do that yourself, but it's going to take me 2 hours. It might take you 8 hours. And your best use of your time is out there telling your story, marketing your product. So think about what value you're bringing here when you say, oh, I'm going to do it myself, or I'm going to hire somebody to do it.
Right. Great advice. By the way, I'd like to thank my guest, John Szymankiewicz of Beer Law Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. John, can you provide our audience with your contact information?
Sure. So my email is super easy. It's John, JOHN, @beerlawcenter.com. If you want to email me, beerlawcenter.com is the website, and we're on most of the social platforms as @beerlawcenter. So yeah, I'd love to chat with you. I make the commitment to anybody out there. If we can't help you, we'll help you find somebody who can. I'm happy to talk about what I know, even if you don't hire me.
Wonderful. By the way, this has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And if you're an attorney or no one who does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.